Hello, my loves. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. Hi, hello, my name is Loey. These days, I get a lot of my video topics from TikTok, and I'm trying to be better about branching out and finding horror content elsewhere, but TikTok is just always chock full of scares, so my eyes are often glued to that platform. I can also admit, because I'm a grown woman, that my attention span is non-existent, and so TikTok is often where I find myself looking for new video sources and topics to talk about. That being said, I've had a lot of you ask me when I was going to talk about the Welcome Home ARG that popped up a bit earlier this year. And in the last week, Nightmind did a full video deep diving into the website, which I did not watch because I didn't want to spoil myself. Then I saw a TikTok come up on my For You page about Welcome Home as well. The TikTok that I saw, by the way, is from Flying Finches. I'm gonna play a few seconds of it now.
It's March 28th. Let's talk about what we know about Welcome Home. Welcome Home is a website and ARG that is dedicated to reviving this show called Welcome Home. It's essentially very similar to Sesame Street. The creator Clown also has already admitted that this is going to be a psychological horror.
With a combined Nightmind deep dive video that's already sitting at 1 million views, as well as this TikTok, which so quickly drew me into this story, I knew that I had to look into this myself. And what I found is so deeply exciting if you love horror like me, but it's also absolutely terrifying. Before we get into today's video, hi, hello, it's Editing Loey. It's 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday. I am missing half of my fingernails and I am wearing a gigantic t-shirt because I am in the middle of editing this video that you're watching right now. And I've been trying to figure out how to implement information that I found out after already finishing up with my initial recording of this video. I've decided that I think it's gonna be a little bit too much of a mess, and so you're going to be getting a part 2 to this video very, very soon, within the next week. Basically, right after I recorded my video, I realized that Jamie of Inside a Mind had uploaded an incredibly extensive video on Welcome Home. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, I just did that video. I can watch this. And oh my God, the way I did not even scratch the surface. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. If you hear me say things like I only found these letters that were slightly askew on the website, or if I missed certain messages, you're welcome to let me know what I did miss down below, but please know that I'm aware that I missed it. That being said, everything in this video is still relevant and interesting and scary, I think. It's just that you'll be getting a part 2 with even more information. I've become a bit obsessed with this series, even since filming that initial video a couple of days ago. Welcome Home is a really fascinating project by Clown Illustration, and I'm gonna have all of his information listed down below so we can support him along this journey because I love this ARG. I love it so much. Okay, without any further ado, let's get into my analysis of Welcome Home. Welcome Home is an alternate reality game with themes of psychological horror throughout. So far, the only location for it on the internet in which you can look into the story and play along is the website. If you're unfamiliar with ARGs or alternate reality games, chances are you've probably experienced one already in some of the media that you consume and you don't even know it yet. The premise of an alternate reality game is typically something that seems as though it could happen in our reality, but it is fictional. It is as if this story is taking place in an alternate reality. You play the game by following along, unearthing clues, and getting to the bottom of the mystery. Welcome Home focuses on archiving materials and discussing and bringing awareness to a lost kids television show called Welcome Home. With vibrant, bright colors and somewhat unsettlingly familiar somehow puppet characters, this looks a lot like a kids' TV show like the ones that I grew up with. The landing page of the Welcome Home website reads as following. With a hop, skip, and a jump, you are ushered into the colorful, serendipitous world of Welcome Home. It only takes one stroll down the neighborhood to know this is just the nicest little place you've ever seen. Watch Wally and his colorful array of friendly neighbors learn about the vibrant world around them and take part in nonsensical fun. Then, welcome to the Welcome Home website. Feel free to explore our humble homepage and learn more about a puppet show now lost to obscurity. thank you for visiting. There's also this like section at the bottom of the page with a GIF that says home sweet home, and it has this like creepy beating heart against pink flowers, and it's very clearly glitched in a way that just makes it a little unsettling and reminds you of why exactly you are looking at this page, because there is something afoot. There are a lot of pages on this website, but I've kind of divided up the contents into 6 different groups. You have the landing page, of course, and then you have the welcome home page, which tells you a bit more about the show and the process of archiving all of these materials around the show and how the show became lost to time. You also have the neighborhood, about us, news, guest book, and links. Now, on the Welcome Home page, we learn that Welcome Home was an American children's television program created and produced by the Playfellow Workshop, which served as the studio's only production. Supposedly, its first episode aired on October 11th, 1969, and was broadcast onto an unknown channel until its last estimated air date sometime in 1974. We also have a bit of detail about the show here, saying that Welcome Home primarily focused on the neighbors, the show's inhabitants, who were accompanied by a mixture of animated breaks and illustrated storybook segments. The setting itself was a colorful and exaggeratedly designed town named Home, with unique elements like a post office and a bodega, as well as brightly colored creatures that lived within it. If we take a break from this page for now and move on to the neighborhood, we can get acquainted with some of these colorful cast of characters. If you're old enough to remember playing Neopets back in the day, that's sort of what this map reminded me of, was like being back in Neopets. I found myself not really wanting to leave this section of the website. However, there is one fairly unsettling detail about the neighborhood map that ended up making my decision for me. That is that when you look at the neighborhood, you might notice that everything is in a perfect little circle. It's basically like this one tiny town, all in the form of this cute little circle of houses, except for the one in the middle. And the one in the middle belongs to Wally, the main character that we have kind of seen so far. He was on the home page, and Welcome Home really does seem to prioritize Wally, focus on Wally, and his house in the center has eyes that watch each and every house as you travel along. It does not make you feel very safe to stay here for too long. I kept thinking something was going to jump out at me. We'll start at the left and work our way clockwise all the way around the neighborhood, saving Wally's house in the center for last. First up, we have Howdy Pillar, who is Welcome Home's friendliest and happiest shopkeeper. As a green caterpillar, he runs the local bodega, which is actually monikered the Bugdega by their most loyal customer, who is a fellow neighbor we will talk about next. Each of these blurbs gives a bit of information about the characters on the show. If you want to know every single detail, I highly recommend going to the website and checking it out for yourself. I do think it's really important to talk about each character's puppets though. This is a detail that seems to make itself into each and every character's bio, and is really one of the only identifying factors that we get outside of learning how they looked in concept art, and also what their general personalities were that has been gathered from these old scripts. I should mention that we don't have an episode of Welcome Home to watch. There are no videos. There is no TV show. All that exists from the show are pieces of media that have been painstakingly restored by the people that run this website. So Howdy Pillar, our bug bodega caterpillar friend, is said to have a puppet that was rotated between a live hand puppet and a walk-around puppet in order to keep him in frame with fellow residents. Next up, we have Barnaby B Beagle. Barnaby is the best friend of Wally, and they even have matching details like colors that mirror each other or little hearts on the bottom of Barnaby's paws and Wally's shoes. Barnaby is described as a goofy layabout with a love for jokes and always knows how to have fun. Apparently, Barnaby ditched life on a farm to move to home, where his neighbors also live. He's always hanging out with Wally, and they're always getting into some kind of fun together. Around the neighborhood, he is generally known as a jokester, though sometimes it seems those jokes are not necessarily well received. Barnaby's puppet similarly was rotated between a live hand puppet and a walk-around puppet, again to keep him in frame with other puppets on the show. Then there's Frank. Frankly, I love Frank. I'm just gonna go out and say it. I think Frank might be my favorite character from the show. He's hilarious. The idea of this like resident bookworm, like gray owl, the only character that's not brightly colored and so exciting, just being this cranky little old guy in his house in the neighborhood, just it tickles me. I love Frank. Frank is a gray owl and he is super smart, always has his nose in a book, and he knows a lot about butterflies. He's also the best friend of his next door neighbor, Julie. His little bio says that sometimes, despite his kind of stern attitude, it's good to have someone who is just frank about everything. In regards to his puppet, in the show itself, the puppet appeared with a fixed frown on its face, but in illustrated material, Frank often had more complex expressions. Any concept work surrounding Frank's puppet could not be uncovered, but there is evidence that has revealed that his head could be fully rotated. Next door to Frank lives his best friend, Julie, who is described as a rainbow monster. She apparently lived with her family in a cave previously, before setting out to find home and explore a life all of her own. Nothing here said anything about her puppet specifically, but we do know that her character had 3 sisters, and also that around the character there was, and I'm quoting here, a prevalent theme of flowers. This can be seen with Julie herself looking like an open flower from above, and illustrations that would reveal her speaking to flowers to make them bloom. Next to Julie is the home of Sally Starlet. Sally is the most gorgeous, brightest star in all of the galaxy. She is indeed a sun. The website says that according to an uncovered script, Sally had once been the brightest star in the sky, even more than those that surrounded her. However, upon looking down at a nearby celestial body from her spot, she knew there were still places that she had yet to truly shine, and fell from above as a shooting star. She has seemingly accomplished her aspired stardom, as there are only 9 visible neighbors in home, all of whom know her. Sally loved the theater, especially acting and singing, and she would often direct her fellow neighbors through skits and other adventures as little story time segments of the show. Concept artwork revealed that Sally was a live hand puppet but required an additional hand to help move her head, as it was much larger than the other puppets. Then maybe we have the most colorful character of the entire show, who is named Polly Partridge. Polly is described as the most frantic, frazzled, and feathered neighbor in Welcome Home. She is the resident chicken, so to speak. Poppy was always thinking of the worst case scenario no matter what the adventure was on the show, but she was also always prepared when bad things would happen. It's said that she lived with her family in a nest deep within the forest, but left to move to home. Poppy often says she can fly, and this is like a major point of her character. She often references it as the way that she moved to home, and that's usually like her thing. Of course I can fly, I flew here after all, but there's no evidence to support that she ever could fly, and it's kind of like a running joke with her character. In terms of her puppet, Polly's puppet is a walk-around puppet that concept work noted had stood at around 8 feet tall, but photographs surrounding her height have yet to be uncovered. Poppy also loves to bake, and it's said that Frank, Eddie, Howdy, and Sally would sometimes act as her baking assistants. At the post office completing our little circle lives Eddie Deer. I love Eddie, he's such a cutie pie. Eddie is a clumsy and forgetful mailman who still always manages to deliver everyone's mail right on schedule. Eddie moved home to establish a post office there. However, one interesting detail about Eddie is that he never remembers where he came from. He would say the name of a place that didn't exist when being questioned exactly where it was that he came from before arriving to home. And when a character would say, "But that place doesn't exist," Eddie would quickly correct himself and say, "Oh, I must have just delivered mail there instead." But he could never say exactly where it is that he came from. He also was known as a character for doing arts and crafts with the other residents, and there's no information here about Eddie's puppet. Then, finally, we go to the center of the map where Wally lives. Wally's house has eyes that watch each and every house in the neighborhood. Wally is the friendliest neighbor and a great painter. He's always ready to make new friends. He's the most prominent character in the show and is the focus of merchandise, advertising, and just the show's general premise. There was not a single story or episode or anything that did not feature Wally. Barnaby is Wally's best friend, and their houses are side by side, so they can constantly just go back and forth. Nothing here about Wally's puppet either, but one of the most interesting details about Wally, I think, is his house. And his house is the secret 9th member of Home. The house is actually named Home, and Home is regarded as the 9th neighbor, but seemingly cannot speak, as illustrations show Home speaking only in onomatopoeias, examples such as creak, squeak, or bang. Sources say, however, that this puppet's eyes could move through a hand crank on the other side of the prop, facing away from the camera. Additionally, its doors, chimney, and windows were supposedly very animated during these episodes. It is implied that Home is the most lively house within the neighborhood, as none of the other houses seem to have eyes. As we wrap up our tour of Home, you may notice here something a bit different about Wally's page. While every other resident had a prompt to go back to the neighborhood, Wally's simply says goodbye at the bottom of the page. Now, you may have already been noticing some odd things throughout this website, a few things maybe I haven't quite drawn attention to yet. But at the very bottom of the neighborhood page, there reads a message. Please note, this information is pulled from remnants found in illustrated pages and old merchandise. Information is subject to change and expand upon discovering new findings. Here at Expand, we see that an X has been lifted above the rest of the word. Now, it could be that this spells out some sort of a code, although so far throughout the entire website, I haven't found enough letters to really give us anything like that. It could also just be a hint, because if you highlight the word in which the X is slightly detached from it and it's sitting above, you see that there's a second X, except it's hidden. I think that this could just be a way of letting the person on the website know that there are more messages hidden, invisible throughout the website, and you must highlight them on the page in order to see them. So here we have a straight X on the Welcome Home page, we have a W as well as an O on another page. On the About Us page, we find a lot of bizarre hidden messages that seemingly someone is trying to hide in plain sight. This page, of course, talks about the individuals who are working on this project. They all want to stay anonymous, which might seem kind of strange at first, but when you find out how exactly they got all of the material around the show, you might understand why. So I'm going to be reading a few questions and their answers here directly from the website, and each of these has a deeper story to tell. How did you begin your research into Welcome Home? The answer is, to be honest, we were drawn in unexpectedly. All of the information found on this website was extracted from documents that had been uncovered in brightly colored envelopes. We are thankful to be the first to jumpstart this journey. So they mysteriously got all of these promotional materials, all of this like concept art of a show that has not been running since the 1970s. It's 50 years later, and they somehow get all of this stuff in brightly colored envelopes. What do the illustrations, writings, and advertisements look like when you receive them? All of the paper materials tucked away inside the envelopes that we have received are usually crammed together and covered in paint and ink. Despite this, volunteers have both restored and recreated most of what was found on the documents. Below is an example of our work as we extract information from the original document and translate it into a digital state. We see here a side-by-side comparison of a piece of artwork that was received by the group and what they basically restored it to. And the one on the left is nightmare fuel. You can basically see that this page is like covered in a mysterious red liquid that's like splattered absolutely everywhere. Characters are unfinished and eerie to look at. And then of course the version that the team has restored. Under the question, why did you start this website? This is where things start to get particularly unsettling. You can tell as soon as you look here that there's extra text on this answer, spliced on top of the bottom layer of text. However, When you highlight just the top layer, you can see the following. When I unwrapped the first letter, I felt it. I heard it. Open, open, open. I want it out. I'm going to get it out. The bottom layer of text, the actual answer to this question, reads as following. I hoped that this website would grab the attention of someone who has seen this show before and could tell us more about it. If this wasn't possible, then we wanted to be the first to showcase this lost piece of media to help spur on the search for its existence. Many of our guest book signatures have talked about seeing this show before, so this is a good sign. It must mean it's inside of you, too. After this statement, though, if you highlight the page, you can see a hidden message saying, does it hurt? Another question, do you know how many episodes of Welcome Home there are? The answer is unfortunately no. We have yet to receive footage from the show, nor a full catalog of all the episodes. We have estimated that the last air date for the show was in 1974, but only because it is the most recent date listed on a script. Then there's another hidden message here, stating the numbers are so hard to read. Sometimes I can't see them. If we go back to the question of how did you begin your research into Welcome Home, we now can notice a hidden message, and it's always been there, just at the start. I didn't really know what I was looking for. After we're thankful to be the first to jumpstart this journey, there's a hidden message reading, but it hurts. Let's go on over to the guest book page, and there are many entries from fans of the show. I even submitted my own when I was researching for this video, saying that all 2.4 some odd million of us are hanging out and enjoying the series, and I really hope you are so far. If you are, please give this video a thumbs up. It would actually mean a lot. Anyway, over on the guest book page, if we go to the very, very last page of the guest book, using the method of highlighting phrases that are hidden, we see that in a row of like unsigned guest book cards, there's a message from Wally. You're looking for me, it reads. Silly, silly. And of course, the name listed at the top is Wally. In Flying Finch's TikTok, which I referenced at the beginning of this video, they find another message from Wally, but I never saw this one. And apparently it says, you won't write back. The news page seems to be a hub to keep all of the viewers of this website aligned as the story goes on. The most recent update has some interesting material in it. Has some interesting things I thought I would read you. We hope everyone in this humble home of ours has had a wonderful month. Love is in the air, or so they say, and we have managed to uncover additional cards from what we believe to be a previously sold package of Welcome Home Valentine's Day cards. A few of these cards existed in our gallery prior to this update, such as Julie Joyful, Frank Frankly, and Eddie Deer, but at the time of their restoration, much the package found was soaking wet, so uncovering the set had been a dilemma. We assumed it must be water damage. However, our restorers have managed to clean up Sally Starlet and Howdy Pillar to what we believe to be their original glory. Hot dog! We've also uncovered a few more intriguing details, neighbors. Although much of the package is unreadable, there appears to be a made-up holiday these cards were meant to promote. Mail-in time day is found on the back of all the cards, as well as on the packaging itself. This may have been a holiday displayed only on the show, perhaps associated with Eddie Deer. Wally and Barnaby are displayed on the front of the package, but they are wearing his uniform. What a charming thought. We wonder if our dear mailman has someone to spend this special day with. We assume it may be a mailbox. I thought this was interesting. I think it was clearly like a tie-in for the ARG to make more art around Valentine's Day and stuff, and I'll show you a little bit of the artwork later, because just because it's so impressive. There's not really even anything too creepy there, but I thought it was interesting that there was like a made-up holiday where it was called Mail-in Day. And it makes me wonder if they were requesting that children mail things in. And I don't know, it all just has such like a dark tone about it. It all has such a weird feeling. I'm like, what were they mailing in? What were they talking about? Like, what happened that went so incredibly wrong here, clearly? There's also a section for links where you can get cute little banners to celebrate your love for the show or just your favorite character. I think it's interesting here because it doesn't seem like there's any like hidden messages or secrets on this page, but the only banner you can click on is Barnaby's. That's the only one that you can enlarge. And I feel like that has to be for a reason. I just don't know what that reason is yet. But I am incredibly suspicious of Barnaby. After all, Barnaby is Wally's very best friend. And if Wally is leaving these messages like on the board, we can sort of assume that there's some sort of like permeance to these characters. There's some sort of life that they have beyond the extension of the show. Or at the very least, Wally does. Or at the very, very least, somebody is on the website pretending to be Wally. But if we stick in a world where these characters somehow exist beyond the like borders of this show and they've done something, I think that Barnaby and Wally would have to be in cahoots with each other. And there's a couple of reasons why. Number one is that you can enlarge Barnaby's like little banner thing on the links page. Number two is that if we go back to the neighborhood page and we look at Barnaby's house, you can see a little line of like blue paw prints going up to Wally's. But on the left side of the house, we see red paw prints leading up to the house. I also think that there's a paintbrush on the ground. We're gonna wrap up our little tour by going back to the Welcome Home page and admiring some of the beautiful artwork that is being created for the show. I cannot begin to express the detail, the dedication, the effort that the people who work on this project have gone through in order to make so much fan art for a show that does not exist. This isn't even fan art, by the way. This is like concepts and promotional material for the show and just pieces that have been restored, or cards, the ones that we mentioned in news. But there's two things I wanted to mention that particularly stuck out to me. One is that they created a GIF of Frank Frankly so that he blinks at you, and it scared the crap out of me. It scared the crap out of me because there's really not any other instance of these characters moving save for one other thing of Frank that was made, but I don't really think that has any reference to like the creepy things of the story. I just know he can turn his head around from that other piece of animated footage, but it'll scare the crap out of you if you're researching this at 11:30 at night, you have a face mask on, you're eating like your third bag of baked hot Cheetos, and maybe you're just a little guy trying to research something scary for a video and you actually get jump scared. And that is my formal complaint. The other creepy photo is one of Wally in the house. And this is as far as I watched into Nightmind's video, as I saw him come across this photo and I was like, oh, I will check this out myself actually. I will make a whole video about this myself. But this photo, it's like Wally kind of like peering out from the house and there's a caption that reads, "There he is." And I don't know, it just feels a little foreboding. For now, that's where I leave you with Welcome Home. This project has established a massive fan base online, and for phenomenal reason. I love this piece of art. I think that people expressing themselves through their art in different ways and using different platforms in order to get it out is just amazing. And I think that what these people have done in regards to like creating an entirely convincing but fake television show and then creating a psychological horror mystery around it is chef's kiss incredible. And I love this project. I will be keeping up with it. You will be getting an update video from me. Don't you even worry. I will be hyperfixating on this for the rest of my days. All of that to say, I think it's obvious how excited I am for this project, how excited I am to have something to follow along with and something to dive deeper into. If there's anything I missed on the website, or you have any suggestions, or just anything at all, if you have any thoughts on this story, let me know in the comments down below. Before I go, I want to say a special thank you to my channel members for being members of this channel. If you want to join the channel memberships and get members exclusive content, including members only updates, polls to help me decide on new video ideas, members only videos, and so much more, you can click that little join button. It should be somewhere around the screen. We would love to have you. For now, thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I love you very, very much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!